Welcome to Nonsense, Season 4, Episode 25, our big story. I'm Jeff Parker.
I'm CJ Little.
This time we're looking at pivots, the myth of the straight line. Up next.
I've been told that every straight line is just 2 drinks away from being an arc.
Every straight line secretly aspires one day to be a vector.
I like when other arcs are just buying those straight lines drinks, trying to get them to arc up.
Geometry nerds on parade. Okay, from rubber boots to ringtones, a corporate identity crisis. Let's go.
Why do you got to call it the geometry nerds?
Because that's what we are.
I'm pro rhombus and parallelogram, declohedrohydron, or in the hell they decahedral octagon. That's where I stop. After 8 sides, why do they have names?
Oh, and this is why I have a remote music button. Success is less a marathon and more a knife fight in a burning building. We love the myth of the visionary founder with a 50-year map, but the reality is often a frantic, sweat-soaked scramble for the exit.
Oh. Look, I've stayed at a lot of pretty crappy hotels and motels, but I've never seen, like, even they have like the crappy waffle maker thing. You make the little crappy waffle in or cereal. But the idea of a sweat-soaked scramble sounds like a terrible breakfast. Like, that's just gross.
Take the titans of the S&P 500. They aren't just evolved, they're reincarnated. A pivot sounds clinical, like a slight adjustment of a camera lens. In truth, it's a desperate shedding of skin. Nokia traded rubber boots for ringtones.
That was probably a mistake, to be honest. They probably should have stayed with the rubber boots.
Nintendo abandoned love hotels for Italian plumbers.
Why not have both?
Okay. Slack rose from the digital corpse of a failing video game.
Well, that's a little pointed. You don't say digital corpse, but yes, the Phoenix did rise from their completely failed video game.
These aren't linear progressions, they're biological mutiny. When the environment turns lethal, the corporation doesn't just change its mind, it kills its past self to let the future breathe.
But that's not always true, right? There are plenty of examples where that didn't happen. Companies didn't pivot, and now we don't talk about those companies anymore.
Sure. Kodak.
I was going to say, the little yellow huts, they all gone.
Yeah, sure. There's a bunch of examples of that.
Yeah, I mean, some of the most successful companies on the planet look nothing like their original incarnations.
Yeah.
Like, I personally love, as a car guy, I love reminding Lambo owners that Lamborghini started by making tractors.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Not cars. That's where it came from. Supposedly, he owned a Ferrari that had like a constant clutch problem, which, shocking. And he was complaining to Enzo Ferrari about it. And Enzo told him to, quote, stick to tractors, presumably in Italian. And Lamborghini insulted and said, well, okay, I'm going to go build my own like luxury Grand Tour to prove that he could do it better.
I'm on you, dude.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, now they're German at the end of the day. It's all owned by VW, so they're much better than their Italian-made brethren. But yeah, tractors.
Okay, the impetus for this story, of course, was AllBirds, the shoe company.
Yeah.
I have a closet full of AllBirds shoes.
You do?
Oh, I do. They were very popular for a while, and I actually really liked them. They were great.
You were not in the demo for AllBirds.
It started out, somebody gave me a gift certificate for a pair or something.
Was that somebody, the AARP?
I'm sure it was. Thank you. So I got a pair and I quite liked them. And so after that, I managed to buy a bunch of other pairs and I was giving them as gifts, but I don't buy them anymore. And apparently the whole rest of the world is like me because everyone stopped buying them and their business shrank up to nothing.
Yeah.
So they scrambled to pivot. And what did they become?
I think you and I could both agree on one thing.
Yeah.
Those AllBirds shoes would be better if they had a little bit of AI in them. Right? That was the big...
Everything is better with AI,
It wasn't the sole, it wasn't the thread, it wasn't the laces, it wasn't the tread pattern. It was they lacked AI, and that to me was the biggest problem. I would just put the shoes on and they wouldn't give me any superpowers.
The crazy thing is they are not even going to be in the shoe business. They are going to own a whole bunch of compute that they lease out.
First of all, back the truck up. Whole bunch is not the right term here. They sold the entire shoe business for like $40 million.
Yeah, oh yeah. It wasn't worth that.
Wasn't most of their IP, was all of their IP.
Yeah.
All of it. Now, for perspective, this company was once valued at $4 billion. They never made a profit.
That was when I was paying full retail for the shoes.
Yeah, exactly. You personally were keeping them propped up.
I'm sure.
By early this year, 2026, their revenue had cratered, and they were trading for under $3, which is down 99% from their IPO high.
But it's fashion. That's really hard.
Why was an upstart fashion brand valued at $4 billion? Like, they had this like tech level valuation.
Absolutely crazy.
On a retail product.
Crazy.
Which made no sense to me.
Let's look at somebody like Nike. Nike.
Yeah.
They're defying gravity.
Yeah.
How long they've been,
course.
have been shoes superstars.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've done so many great deals and their branding is so good.
You have to reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
You have to reinvent your product every single year. That's impossible. That's remarkable they've been able to do that.
Well, yeah. And by the way, Nike has managed to do that with no AI. They're not even an AI shoe.
Yes, that's true.
It's just a regular old shoe.
Yet.
Yeah, exactly. It's coming. It's coming. So the impetus for this show was that last week, AllBirds said, okay, we're selling off the shoe business for $40 million and we are pivoting and we are going to become NewBird AI. And market, we have secured $50 million in funding to pivot to AI compute infrastructure, specifically renting GPUs to folks in this GPU as a service model. And why I laugh at this is from what I can tell, at best, they've got $80 million to put to work, right? They had no money before.
Oh, really?
They've got the $39 million that they sold all the assets for, and then $50 million in some note, some sort of capital investment. So they've got $80 million to go buy GPUs with.
But the stock jumped. How much did the stock jump when they announced they were going to be NewBird AI?
It didn't jump. No, sir. If that's a jump, then it would have won every Olympics ever, all stacked up. There's no way. It went up 876% in one day. That's not a jump, right? Now, remember, what few assets they had, they got rid of.
Yeah, sure.
So now they just had pure speculation and not even the name, right? It's called NewBird AI, whatever that means. And they are saying, we're going to put $80 million to work, or they secured 50, they have 30. I'm presuming $80 million to work in this GPUs rental model.
By the way, they want to buy high-end GPUs and then lease them out to other people.
Yeah.
Good luck buying high-end GPUs.
Let's assume they have access. For $80 million, you're going to get like
3 of them. Yeah,
two and a half GPUs. Like what are you going to do? Who are you going to rent these to? Like it's comical when you realize how much money everyone is spending on building this infrastructure. And they're like, oh yeah, we're going to compete with AWS. No problem. I'm sure we're going to beat them at their own game.
That's the crazy thing. Unless you've got as many customers as AWS has, the last thing you want to do is own high-end GPUs because next year's model is coming out.
Yeah, going to crush those. So I mentioned they had a nearly 900% increase. They went from $2.50 a share to $24 in the same day in a single session.
Wow.
The volume traded was about 280 million shares.
Okay.
Which is about 3,700 times their daily average.
Oh, sure.
So I got to believe you had a whole lot of speculation there. People just buying and dumping, right? Buying and dumping as best you can to ride that 9X wave that was there. Of course, analysts have been scathing, might not be the strong enough word, but many of them have just dropped coverage entirely because what is there to cover? Like, what are you covering now?
Oh, sure.
What is this?
Sure.
So yeah, they are no more. The sneaker company that you enjoyed previously is now renting 6 GPUs.
That's a pivot I'm going to predict now where people are going to lose a whole lot of money.
Oh yeah, a bunch of people I think already have, right? You've already seen
all that money is going to be gone.
A pretty big return.
Yeah.
To some modicum of normalcy. Although I still think it's overpriced. But this feels a lot like do you remember the Long Blockchain Corp from, what was that, 2017 or so? Sort of the height of the crypto bubble? Those guys?
I do, but go ahead and explain it because it's a great story.
It was nuts. These guys made a drink. They literally made tea.
Long Island iced tea.
That's what they did. I don't even think it was alcoholic, right? Wasn't it just like
no, it was tea.
It was just a tea that they put in a can and sold, ready to drink. Like, okay, Arizona tea, I guess, wasn't covering all their bases.
Based in Hicksville, New York, which tells you everything.
It tells you all you need to know. So they issued a press release in 2017, like late 2017, saying they were changing their name to Long Blockchain Corp. Okay, so you kept Long around.
Sure.
Their, quote, strategy, which was super vague, was going to shift their focus towards, quote, the exploration of and investment in opportunities that leverage the benefits of blockchain technology. That's it. That's what they said.
All good. Nothing wrong with that. It's just there's you and a billion other people doing that.
Well, no, there is something wrong with that. They had 0 blockchain products. They had 0 employees with blockchain expertise.
Sure.
They were still, for all intents and purposes, just an iced tea company that had added a buzzword to its letterhead. That was it. Like, that's all they did.
Somebody was cashing out. I bet you somebody sold their shares when everything jumped.
The market went bananas, right? It went up 380%. So at one point they were trading like $9.50 a share. And people were plowing in just because they didn't have many opportunities to invest in any company that had blockchain in the title, which they did. This did not last long. Remember, this was December of 17.
Yeah.
By early 2018, I think by April, NASDAQ delisted them, citing that the name change was misleading to investors. By July of that year, the SEC had subpoenaed the company and the FBI was investigating them. And then a couple years later in 2021, the SEC officially revoked the company's stock registration, like just pulled the whole thing.
Because they had never actually completed a single blockchain-related transaction.
Nothing.
Or a business pivot. It remained a beverage company in a tech costume.
Yes, that's all it was.
That's crazy.
Insane. And that was, 2017, it was a minute ago, but it wasn't that long ago. So this AllBirds pivot feels a lot like that. I can't find a better previous depiction of what's happening with NewBird AI than this long blockchain corp. Like, that's what it feels like to me.
Except the long blockchain actually had insider trading charges leveled against them.
Yeah.
They had tipped off friends about the name change before it went public, allowing them to buy shares at $2 and sell them for a massive profit just hours after the announcement.
Yeah, I mean, that was ultimately, I think, how they ended up getting them was that was the thing that they could prove. It's hard to prove that they didn't have intent to do blockchain at some point.
Except nothing ever came out.
Well, we were about to do it, but then you investigated us and all of our capital got sucked out. It was your fault. It's like, yeah, okay. So let's go back to when you told your buddies you were doing this.
Okay.
Yeah, right? And you just get them on straight insider trading. So anyway, that's how I think that went down. Those are the ones that, let's just say, didn't work out well. Or I'm assuming NewBird AI is not going to work out well. That would be my personal bet.
Yeah.
I think today we should talk about ones that maybe have been a little more interesting, right? Ones that maybe survived a little longer.
Okay.
Certainly we could pick some that had flamed out, but I think the ones that survived are the more interesting stories a lot of people don't know.
You have a list and I have a list. How do you want to do that? So you want to go back and forth?
You get to go first.
B.F. Goodrich.
Yeah?
You're familiar with B.F. Goodrich tires. They're all over the place. Massively successful.
Oh, no, I know them from their hamburgers. Their hamburgers were delicious.
Benjamin Franklin Goodrich in Akron, Ohio. The company's first major success was not tires.
Yeah.
They made rubberized fire hoses.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Fire hoses were made of leather.
Yes.
And they tended to crack and leak. Leather was probably not a great idea for shooting water, high pressure water through it. So they invented this cotton wrapped rubber hose, which was this huge technological leap forward for fire departments.
No, but now I'm really wondering, how we went from riding horses for transportation to now it's like a status symbol. I really wonder if the private, fire service that protects the Kardashians' house.
If they have leather hoses.
They have leather, Louis Vuitton hoses.
Oh, that'd be nice.
We don't use the canvas. We have the nice monogram, all that stuff, the canvas.
Then they branched out because they now had experience in rubber. They had a lot of experience.
When was this about? Time frame wise?
1870.
So they pivoted in 1870.
No, they didn't pivot in 1870. They started in 1870 with rubberized fire hoses.
Yeah.
Then they started making belts for machinery and for automobiles, early automobiles, medical tubing. And the big shift began, they started making bicycle tires. And then in 1896, automobile tires.
Interesting.
First company in the United States to manufacture pneumatic automobile tires, filling an order for the Winton Automobile Company.
Oh, yeah.
When was the last time you got in your Winton and drove around?
Oh, I love my Winton. Oh, she's fast.
In 1903, they supplied tires for the first car to drive across the United States.
Okay.
In 1927, they provided tires for Charles Lindbergh's Spirit of St. Louis for his historic transatlantic flight.
Oh, that's cool.
In 1947, they developed the first tubeless tire in the United States.
Okay.
And in 1965, they introduced the first radial tire in America.
And I'm assuming today, the vast majority, if not all of the revenue comes from tire sales.
The B.F. Goodrich brand in 1988, the tire division was sold to Michelin, the French company.
Yes.
So they exist as a part of Michelin as a premium tire brand within their portfolio.
Yeah.
Famous for their all-terrain TA line. But the company, B.F. Goodrich, still existed.
They just do tires and rank restaurants. That's it. That's all they do
until
now.
fairly recently, doing aerospace and defense, making things like landing gear and flight sensors.
Oh, that's cool.
And that was sold in 2012 to RTX Raytheon Technologies.
Extremely interesting.
There you go. That's their pivot.
You are far more thorough on your choices than me. I'm just like, oh, look at these guys. They used to sell candy.
Well, I have one of those too.
Oh, good.
Your move, sir.
I did not know this about B.F. Goodrich. That is super interesting to me. I wanted to be a little more nerdy in tech and bring up Slack. You know the Slack backstory, I'm assuming?
Yes, I do know it, but also it's the bane of everyone's existence.
No.
However, if you need it, it's really nice. It's really nice to have it.
I'm pro Slack. So in 2009, Stuart Butterfield, who had already co-founded Flickr, the photo sharing site, had a little tiny startup called Tiny Spec, and their mission was to build a massively multiplayer online role-playing game, or an MMORPG, is how it's better known. And they called it Glitch. So unlike combat-heavy games, Glitch was supposed to be a surreal, non-violent world centered on collaboration and building things. And I've never played this game. I've seen it, but I never really played it.
It came out.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if they shipped it. I just remember seeing videos of it. So anyway, so they had this game they were working on. It was this collaborative game. The problem is most people want to kill stuff. That's what they really want to do in the game. So I don't think it got much traction.
Yeah, sure.
And their team was spread between San Francisco and Vancouver. They all hated using email, which is something I think we pretty much can all agree to. And instead, they were looking at existing chat tools like IRC, but it didn't provide them any search capability.
Right.
So they just built their own. They built this side project to just help facilitate making the game. So Slack was born out of a need inside this team to build this. And by 2012, it was clear that Glitch was a commercial failure. Yeah. And while the game's art style was beloved, the player base was not large enough to sustain their business. service. So November of that year, Butterfield had to shut it down, lay off most of the staff, but they missed the chat tool. And I thought that was really interesting, right? Like after sort of post-game development, they're like, oh, wait, there might be something to this. They spent the next year just polishing the tool, which most people don't know that Slack is supposed to stand for searchable log of all conversations and knowledge. That's where Slack comes from. The result was they launched it in 2013. They saw 8,000 signups in the first 24 hours.
Wow.
7-ish years later, they exited it to Salesforce for nearly $28 billion.
That's amazing.
Which they probably would not have seen even if Glitch exceeded their expectations. That was an insane exit. The irony was that Stuart Butterfield had done this before, right? He was, before Slack, he was trying to build a game called Game Never Ending. That game failed, but the photo sharing tool he built for it is what became Flickr. So he sold that to Yahoo for about $25 million. Not the same as the $28 billion exit that he had to Salesforce.
But Slack is also a perennial. Think about had the game been successful.
Yeah, you wouldn't have had it.
And they had not polished up Slack.
Yeah.
They would have had a good year with the game, some good sales. Maybe they would have gotten a year and a half out of it.
Exactly.
But even Fortnite has gone quiet. They've had to lay off 20% of their staff.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like you've got to maintain the interest. So you didn't buy a game. You're like buying into this world, so you constantly need content updates, and they're dropping digital content. It's not set it and forget it like software in a box for sure.
And Slack, what a gold mine that thing's been, and it's just been a perennial.
It's just been a great tool, right? I just think like it's added certainly more value to the world, I think, than a game would have. So anyway, that's how Slack got here. How about you? What's next?
American Express.
American Express.
That card that's in your wallet. In 1850 in Buffalo, New York, American Express originally was a freight forwarding company.
Oh, really? Hence the name.
Yeah, it was a merger of 3 companies owned by Henry Wells, William G. Fargo, and John Butterfield. And in the early decades, they were essentially a private version of the U.S. Postal Service. They used stagecoaches, horses, and railroads to transport high-priority mail, gold and currency, valuable freight, stocks and bonds, and it functioned sort of like a modern-day armored car service.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
They specialized in the rapid, secure transport of valuables such as gold, currency, securities, and sensitive documents across New York State and the Midwest. They were even known for using a watchdog as their original logo to symbolize security and vigilance.
Now, in those names of the roll-up for when this was a freight forwarder, you had Wells and Fargo.
That's true.
Is that any relation to the Wells Fargo that we know today?
They did come out west, and they started a little bank for miners that you may have heard of called Wells Fargo.
Interesting.
So American Express shifted to financial services.
As one does.
Slowly.
Yeah.
Because there were some innovations. The U.S. Post Office started doing money orders.
Okay.
So AmEx introduced their own version, which allowed people to send money safely across the country without mailing physical cash.
Interesting.
And then in 1891, they came out with their traveler's checks.
Wow. Interesting. I mean, that was the first sort of quasi-EFT, like those in money orders.
That was the beginning of easily being able to
travel with money safely.
In World War I, the U.S. government nationalized the express industry into the Railway Express Agency, which forced American Express to focus almost entirely on its travel and banking segments.
Oh, interesting.
They had to exit from freight in 1918.
I always assumed that travel in AmEx was a bolt-on to the financial services, but actually sounds like it was the root, like travel.
It was the primary business.
Wow, that's fascinating to me. I had no idea.
Then they had a lot of internal debates that having a credit card, a general purpose credit card, might cannibalize their traveler's check business.
Oh, yeah.
And they dithered on that for a while.
Yeah.
In 1958, they finally pulled the trigger to compete with the newly formed Diners Club.
Yeah,
That famous purple card.
Yeah, to be fair, they have completely lost the market on traveler's checks.
Have they?
I mean, how many are issued a year? 4?
I don't know. I don't use traveler's checks.
Yeah, no one does.
The card was a massive success with over 1 million cards issued within the first 5 years.
Wow, that's amazing. I had no idea.
Yeah.
All right, American Express.
The most recent financial reports that I have are 2025, and the annual revenues were $72 billion to $80 billion, depending upon the reporting metric you used. Their Platinum card remains an industry benchmark with a reported retention rate as high as 99%.
That's crazy.
That's absolutely amazing. I want to know if that 1% is literally mostly due to death.
I mean, it probably is. I think their biggest churn is death. If they could open up a third prong of the business that's just, some lifestyle changes to keep you around.
A gym.
That's really incredible.
Sure.
That's pretty cool. I had no idea.
That's some pretty cool pivoting.
That's great. I have one for you this is a company that some people might not actually know, depending on how old you are.
Yeah.
This is Nokia.
Candy bar phones. I used to have a Nokia phone.
Yeah, right? I feel like everybody, at least of our age demographic, had multiple Nokias, right? You had your candy bar phone was probably one of your first phones, probably your first GSM phone, since they were European by start. Okay, so Nokia begins its life in 1865 as a paper mill in Finland.
Okay.
They make paper. And then over the next century, they expanded into like rubber boots, car tires, floor cables. Like all of this happened long before they even thought about getting into cell phones.
They're just throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what would stick.
Yeah. When it was a paper company and when, it was the early 20th century, they're on the verge of bankruptcy. It was saved by the Finnish Rubber Works and then later joined with the Finnish Cable Works to sort of merge together into this conglomerate. I don't know why. Like you would think you'd want some overlap.
Things don't seem related. Sure.
I don't know what part of paper mill works with rubber boots. Maybe they wear a lot of rubber boots in the paper mill. I don't really know. But those three completely different businesses are what merged to form Nokia. It was just this like everything store of, you had toilet paper and napkins from the paper mill. You had rubber boots and car tires. They made gas masks for the Finnish military. They made TVs and PCs. They had electricity and they made cables, like all of the stuff.
You can feel the trend though, moving toward electronics.
Yeah, you could see them getting a little more towards the copper and a little less from the rubber, right? That was the move. By the late 80s, they were pretty bloated. They were struggling. And well, the sad part was in 88, the company's CEO took his own life, right? Which left the firm in a state of crisis. And many expected Nokia to be sold off in pieces, just cut up and sold off.
Yeah.
They got a new leader in 92.
Sure.
And the move was considered insane at the time. He decided to sell off every profitable legacy division. The rubber, the paper, the tires, sold them all off and bet the entire company on a nascent technology called GSM, which was the Global Systems for Mobile Communications.
Yeah.
In the early 90s, this thing had no legs. All the mobile phones that you had were, especially in the US, were all proprietary. You had no GSM deployed in the US. I don't think we got GSM in the US until like 95.
Sure.
95, 96 is when we got GSM in the US. A pretty prophetic bet that this was going to work. The result, though, was they were absolutely dominant, right? They had expertise in cables and electronics, so they could both build the network infrastructure, which was what was necessary for the phones, and the handsets.
Yeah.
So they were the back office provider for most of the equipment as well.
Yeah.
In 1992, they launched the Nokia 1011, the 1011,
Sure.
which was the first mass-produced GSM phone. So they made the first one. Just 6 years after the pivot, they became the largest mobile phone manufacturer in the world. This is 1998.
Wow.
So they were the largest. They pivoted again when they sold its phone division to Microsoft in 2014. And this was Apple and Android just decimated the Nokia phone business, right? So it went from everyone had a Nokia phone, a little candy bar phone or one of the little like flippy phones. And then they sold it off because it had been destroyed by Apple and Google.
And Microsoft bought it so that they could popularize the Windows phone that we have today.
Yes, that was the plan. This was going to make the world move on to Windows phones, and we all know how well that
Hugely
works.
successful Windows phone.
Yes,
that you've never heard of.
Yes. No, you heard of it. You just see it in the Smithsonian is where you see it. So that was pretty crazy. Today they've circled back to like their CableWorks roots.
Yeah.
They're no longer a consumer brand, but they are a B2B telecom giant.
I was going to say they still do.
Yeah.
They still do back end telecom,
5G infrastructure, private wireless networks, industrial AI. Interesting little fun fact. The Nokia tune, which I think everybody of a certain age knows. This is like the infamous
Sing it.
Nokia. Oh, I'm not singing it.
Sing it.
It's actually based on a 19th century Spanish guitar work called Gran Vals. It was chosen because it was old enough to be in the public domain, which saved them, this new tech company,
a fortune. Sure.
a fortune in royalties during its 90s expansion.
My last one is near and dear to my heart. It is a company whose roots go back to 1839.
Okay.
With the Valley Falls Company.
Yeah.
And Hathaway Manufacturing Company.
Okay.
Which was founded in 1888. And they were pure textile manufacturers. They produced high quality cotton fabrics and fine linens.
Okay.
In 1955, these two companies merged to form Berkshire Hathaway Inc., creating a textile giant that operated 15 plants and employed over 12,000 people. However, the New England textile industry was already in steep decline due to cheaper competition from the South and overseas.
Yep.
In 1962, Warren Buffett began buying shares because the stock was trading below the book value of the company's physical assets, like its mills and machinery. And he was originally intending to sell his shares back to the company for a profit. He actually had a promise from the head of the company to buy his shares back at a certain number. And later, the leader of the company tried to cheat Buffett out of a few cents per share on the buyback deal. He welched on his promise of what he was going to pay them back.
Yeah.
And it pissed off Buffett,
of course,
who instead bought a controlling interest in Berkshire Hathaway and fired the guy.
LBO'd. Yeah, I love it. Oh, good job. Early angry Warren.
Buffett soon realized textiles were a dead-end business, so instead of pouring more money into the mills, he began using the cash the mills generated to buy other businesses. And the big breakthrough came in 1967 when he bought the National Indemnity Company, an insurance firm, which gave him access to float, which is the money the insurance companies hold between receiving premiums claims and paying out claims. Using this free capital, he bought iconic brands like Geico Seas Candy and Dairy Queen. The company officially shut down its last textile operations in 1985, completing a total exit from its founding industry.
I had no idea it was around that long.
Market value?
$1 bajillion.
In late 2024, it became the first non-tech company in the U.S. to reach a $1 trillion market capitalization.
That's amazing. Now, you know what they need to do, right? This is so obvious to me. They need to be Berkshire AI, and they could be the first $10 trillion company.
That would help them with their lack of funds. Yes, that would help them.
their big funding glut that they're in.
It's now a holding company that has over 60 businesses, including Duracell, Fruit of the Loom, BNSF Railway, and major stock positions in companies like Apple, Coca-Cola, and American Express.
That's amazing. I had no idea. Today I learned.
An amazing business story, and I'm not sure how it's going to go now that Warren has retired. He still goes to work every day. Sure. He's still the chairman. He is no longer the CEO. And so now we're potentially facing a world without Warren, which would be a very sad thing. He's been an amazing influence on American business.
All we have to do is take their speaking gigs, all their written memos and letters, feed them into an LLM, and then we have Berkshire AI. We just have the two of them, and they can just make decisions, but only on AI companies. I also love, by the way, you got it wrong when they're like strong buy on AllBirds AI, and you're like, oh, this is not working as planned.
Pass. They don't actually issue any guidance. They issue nothing like that.
I know. I love that their AI agent versions issuing guidance. That would be amazing.
All right, we have to get out of here quickly. Before we do, have you seen or read anything good this last week?
Well, yeah, I'm going to plug Coachella again because it's a big show and there's a lot going on. There's 120,000 people there every day.
Yeah.
You can't see everything.
Okay.
The second weekend, they also live streamed. The production value I thought was not quite as good. I feel like their A game was on weekend 1 and weekend 2 was like...
Well, that's the weekend to put it on.
80, exactly. I feel like it was like 80% as good. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't as good.
Okay.
9 Inch Nails was great as last weekend, but it was the same show. So nothing new to be learned there. I did enjoy, sort of maybe guilty pleasure, Sabrina Carpenter. She leaned into that Thelma and Louise theme. So from her weekend 1 Coachella appearance. On weekend 2, she had Gina Davis reading the mid-show monologue as an older Aunt Sabrina. So that was
fun.
Succeeding last weekend's guest, Susan Sarandon. Now, Susan Sarandon's monologue was like way too long.
Yeah.
The rumor was they were having technical difficulties and they had her like just riff it, but it was like,
oh my,
holy cow, it just kept going. But that was weekend 1.
I love Gina Davis.
Then Sabrina Carpenter has, and this was rumored, Madonna just appear on stage.
Oh, that's cool.
You could kind of see the handing of the crown, is sort of how I was seeing it.
Yeah.
And they sang together and it was great. And they were both lovely. When they had Madonna leave the stage, because I'm assuming they couldn't get her to walk off the stage because she wasn't going to want to, they had her just slowly lower through a trap door in the floor, which was kind of awesome.
While she was still talking?
She talked the whole way down.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was actually pretty amusing. That was fun. I watched most of the Karol G set, which I've never seen before. I was super impressed. Disclosure was great. Fatboy Slim was great. It was just all around an exciting show that they put on, and I really enjoyed it. I think it's been the best Coachella in years. It's been years since I've enjoyed one this much.
That's amazing.
So it was fun. I hate plugging the same thing, but it was more than just 9 Inch Nails, I think is my point. How about you? Are you going to plug the same thing again like me or something new?
Absolutely not. I'm going to plug the 2016 film The Founder. Michael Keaton delivers a high-voltage performance as Ray Kroc, a struggling salesman suffocating under a straight line of failure. When he discovers the McDonald's brothers' revolutionary burger stand, he sees more than a kitchen. He sees a metamorphosis. While his wife Ethel, played by Laura Dern, watches his obsession dismantle their domestic stability, Kroc executes a desperate zigzag. Realizing the brothers' speedy system is an engineering marvel, but a financial trap for him, he pivots. He stops selling shakes and starts buying land. By turning a burger joint into a real estate titan, Kroc effectively cannibalizes the founder's identity. It's a ruthless tale of corporate survival where Kroc fleeces his partners to build a global empire on a foundation of asphalt and leases. Crazy story and a great movie. The Founder on Netflix now.
And happened not too far from where you and I are sitting right now.
That's true.
Which is pretty cool.
San Bernardino, California.
Yeah.
But he wasn't making money off of the burger side of the business, so if you wanted to have a McDonald's franchise, you had to tell him where you were going to buy it, and he bought the land for you. Now you had to then lease the land from him in perpetuity.
No, that's the Golden Arches. We have the Golden Arcs. Love that line from that film. So good.
Sure.
I have not seen this, but I've heard great things about it, and I love Michael Keaton, so I'm going to have to watch that.
Absolutely delightful. That is the episode.
Thank you for joining us for all this nonsense, a truly terrible podcast from The Awful Company. Visit us on the web at nonsense.productions. I'm CJ Little.
I'm Jeff Parker.
If you like this program, please follow, download, subscribe, and like at Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, AntennaPod, iHeartRadio, Spotify, my favorite Overcast, or wherever you may get your podcasts from.
Nonsense Studios relies on Pipewire for handling audio and video under Linux. Powerful and efficient, Pipewire achieves low latency and low CPU utilization through a graph-based processing engine implemented in 30,000 lines of open-source straight-C programming. Old school for the win!
Memory leaks? What memory leaks?
If you use audio and video on Linux, check out Pipewire.
We'll be here every Tuesday and Thursday morning for more nonsense. Please join us.
I have a giant memory leak.
Wow. Tell me about it. Neurons fall out the back.